The new Ultrahand ability in Tears of the Kingdom allows you to create, well, just about whatever you can think of. I personally love the freedom and possibilities that Ultrahand offers, but for some people, it's a bit overwhelming. My wife, for instance, gets frustrated because there are too many possibilities, and she doesn't want to roleplay as an engineer. The good news is, you don't have to be an engineer to successfully use this ability. In this video, I've laid out some tips on how to more easily build what you want to build, as well as some general principles that will help you come up with designs that work. With that all said, let's jump into the video. You have many options to move an object around with Ultrahand. Moving the right stick up and down changes an object's height, while moving the right stick left and right rotates the object around Link. Pressing up on the D-pad pushes the object away from Link, while pressing down pulls the object closer. You can rotate an object 45 degrees at a time around two major axes by holding R and pressing one of the 4 directions on the D-pad. Pressing up and down rotates the object away from Link and towards Link, while pressing left and right rotates the object clockwise and counterclockwise, as viewed from above. These directions are indicated by the curved arrows that appear around the object whenever the R button is pressed. You might be thinking, yeah, I know all this. But did you realize you can reset the orientation of an object during rotation by pressing ZL? I've played almost 150 hours in this game, and I just learned this a couple days ago. It's literally right there on the UI during rotation. But I was always so focused on trying to build something that I didn't notice it. Now let's talk about building. Attaching objects is easy, but attaching objects exactly where you want can be a little more challenging. When you move an object near another attachable object, a translucent connection reminiscent of glue appears between them. More importantly, however, 2 bright dots appear, one on the active object and one on the target object. These dots act as the anchors on each object that will be used to connect them to each other. As you move the active object around the target object, you can see these dots snap to different positions on each. So to make sure that objects attach to each other exactly the way you want, you need to pay attention to each object's orientation relative to the other, and to which points on each object will be connected. Sometimes the available connection points on an object are really close together. While you might think that you should bring the objects closer together to connect the right points, in my experience, it is often easier to bring the objects a little further apart. This is because the game tries to connect the points on each object that are closest to each other. When you are further away, you can move the active object a bit more before you get a different set of connection points. Detaching objects is also pretty easy. Just wiggle the right stick left and right. However, detaching an object will detach all connected objects. So if you detach an object with a lot of connections, you may have to do more rebuilding. Okay, now that we've covered the basics, let's talk about some good principles for building useful contraptions with Ultrahand. Number 1, make a plan. Before building anything, figure out what your goal is. Are you trying to cross a chasm? Do you need to move fast? Do you need to defeat an enemy? What is it you are trying to achieve? Then, look at what materials you have. Oftentimes, the game gives you some basic materials you can use, but if it's not a shrine, you can also use any Zonai devices in your pouch. Once you know what you are trying to do and what you have available to you, decide on a strategy for moving forward. Don't spend too much time on this step, however, as it can be easy to become paralyzed with indecision over how to proceed. Number 2. Keep it simple. Going along with making a plan, it is important that you try your best to keep it simple. The more complicated your design, the more likely it is that it won't work. Even if you can make a more complicated design work, they often take a lot more time and testing to get to that point. If you have the patience and stamina to make a complicated design, go for it. But if you just need to, say, get a Korok to his friend, don't overcomplicate it. If it works, it's good enough. Number 3. Don't reinvent the wheel. Another thing that can make using Ultrahand feel daunting is trying to come up with your own designs. The thing is, though, a lot of the problems that you might need to solve in the game have already been solved in real life. So take inspiration from designs that already exist. Instead of trying to be creative and design some masterpiece of innovation, maybe just build a car, or a plane, or a boat. These designs have stood the test of time because they are good designs. Don't feel pressured to make something totally new. Number 4. Perfectly balanced. Once you have a design you think will work, pay attention to the symmetry of your design. Objects in this game have different weights, so if your design isn't balanced, it may not work quite as you expect. Don't just consider the left to right symmetry though. It's also important to consider the front to back symmetry as well. Putting too much weight on the back of a glider, for instance, may actually reduce the distance you can travel. Number 5. A flat foundation. Finally, whenever possible, you should try to build on a flat surface. It's not always possible, of course, but it does make construction quite a bit easier when your materials aren't resting at weird angles or rolling away. I know it seems like that should be obvious, but sometimes you are so focused on just getting the design built that you can forget to think about where you are building. Furthermore, sometimes you can put together a makeshift building platform, so it's good to at least determine if building on a flat surface might be possible. I hope you found this guide helpful. If you have other tips you think I should have included in this video, let me know in the comments down below. I also plan to make another video about Ultrahand in the future to cover more specific designs that could be helpful. So if you have any cool contraptions you want to share with me, I'd love to hear them. Lastly, if you found this guide helpful in any way, please consider subscribing as it really helps the channel out. Thank you so much for watching, and I will see you all next time. God bless.